This video has been shared widely across social media, appearing to show chaotic crowds of protesters and general unrest in Kashmir. It was filmed after India revoked a constitutional provision that granted autonomous powers to the state of Kashmir on August 5th. While Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called the decision a new dawn for residents in the area, many people across those regions feel differently. The Indian government and Kashmir state police officials have said the region is calm and returning to normal.
इस नई व्यवस्था के तहत हम सब मिलकर आतंकवाद, अलगाववाद से जम्मू कश्मीर को मुक्त कराएंगे.
The valley has remained largely peaceful over the last 1 week.
But video and eyewitness accounts suggest a different story. In order to understand what's happening in Kashmir, you have to understand the history of the long disputed territory. 72 years ago, the Indian subcontinent, which was previously under British rule, split into two separate independent states: Pakistan, which has a Muslim majority, and India, which has a Hindu majority. Jammu and Kashmir, which is on the border of India and Pakistan, initially chose to remain independent, but the Hindu prince who ruled the region later acceded to India. That move led to Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, which granted a special status of autonomy to the state. And the Indian government's decision to overturn it undoes nearly 7 decades of history. It removed Kashmir's semi-autonomous status, which gave it the power to make its own laws and prevented non-residents from buying property in the region. The government also stripped Kashmir of its statehood, turning it into a, quote, union territory. Both Pakistan and India still claim control of the region.
So it has been a big flashpoint between the two nuclear armed neighbors, which have been rivals for the past 70 years.
Kashmir is a Muslim-majority state in India, and it's still a touchpoint in the predominantly Hindu country. Modi leads the Hindu Nationalist Party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, or the BJP, which won a landslide election during which Modi campaigned on the promise of revoking Article 370.
Its actual implementation came as a surprise to everyone in the country, and especially to Kashmir, because there was no sort of preceding dialogue or notice given to it. It happened all of a sudden.
In anticipation of the backlash to the decision, the Indian government shut down all forms of communication in Kashmir, including the internet, cable TV, and landlines. Thousands of security forces patrol the streets at checkpoints, public meetings of more than 4 people are banned, and schools and colleges remain closed. Many high-profile political leaders in Kashmir continue to be held under detention.
But there have been sporadic protests in the valley, but the government has tried to ensure that no large-scale protests or incidents of violence get reported.
Misinformation, including old video, has been widely shared during the aftermath of the announcement to revoke Article 370. However, the argument of old or fake footage has also been used to decry real protests as fake.
From what we found when we traveled there was a sense of anger and resentment against India's decision and the way it was implemented. And I think that's a crucial point as well, that people felt cheated and betrayed, that India, after making promises for all these years, has suddenly sort of unilaterally decided to revoke something without even consultation with the people.
इसका प्रोटेस्ट इसलिए है जो इन्होंने दफा 370 की कोशिश तोड़ने की कोशिश की है, उसकी वजह से हम सारे लोग, बच्चे, बूढ़े, माँ, बहनें सब निकले हैं रोड पे. A
section of the Indian national press and of course the government has tried to sort of push back on this and say that there are also people that are happy and things are easing out. But I think what we found there was definitely that was not the case.
The Indian government has continued to change its story regarding a protest that occurred in Kashmir on August 9th. First, they denied a large-scale protest took place in Srinagar. Here's what video from the day shows. Fact-checkers in India geolocated the protests to this mosque in Srinagar. Signs referring to Article 370 verify these protests were in response to the recent decision and not old video that had resurfaced. The Indian government walked back its statement and acknowledged the unrest, but Kashmir state police officials denied any, quote, firing took place. Video published by the BBC has audio of firing and tear gas as protesters disperse. Officials later acknowledged pellets were fired and caused injuries. Their justification was that firing referred to live bullets, not pellets. More protests erupted on August 16th, after Friday prayers, and continued into the following weekend. In response to allegations that the protests were fake or using old footage, protesters started writing the date on their signs to prove that these protests were in fact happening. Photos and videos from the ground are hard to come by given the harsh crackdown on communication channels. While India eased restrictions on landlines in Kashmir after 2 weeks, authorities have refused to say when internet access and mobile services will be restored. The existing visual evidence points to irrefutable proof of discontent over the move to revoke Article 370, a reality the Indian government has tried to deny. If there are statements you've heard politicians say that don't quite make sense at rallies, state fairs, in that one friend's feed, let us know. Send us a note or a tweet with what they said and your question. We'll check it out. You can follow along by subscribing to the Post YouTube channel and watching more fact checker videos here.